Welcome to the June board meeting. In this meeting, we'll hopefully approve our new budget for 2019 through 2020, and this is probably the most important thing that the board does. But before we get to that, I wanted to mention two other ideas. The city and the county are no longer picking up recyclable paper, and there are a couple things that our customers can do to deal with this problem. First, to look at the paper products that you do purchase, and do they contain post-consumer waste? If we want things to be recycled, then if we're buying those products that can carry that post-consumer waste, we would be helping the cycle of renewable products. The other option, or other thing to consider, is to consider our electronic billing that our Chief Financial Officer, David Billings, has promoted this program, I think, for about 2 years, and that you can electronically receive your bill. And I had success recently. My husband resisted, but David and I talked, and I'm sure I was told in the past, but I missed it, that you can not only get it electronically by email, but also have reminders by text or phone on a phone of your choice, so that you do have two sources of information so that you won't miss it. You don't have to have that pile among your numerous piles that are sitting on your desk just to pay your bill. So that would be an excellent move, and we still, I believe, have the $5 rebate if you sign up for that. And so yesterday, our accounts changed over to electronic, and that's a very positive thing. So consider that as a way for dealing with the paper that's not being recycled. So I'm Anna Marie Pavlik-Rosen, Chair of the Board. To my right, Walt Baldwin, Vice Chair. Don Hale, our Secretary Treasurer. Member Steve Mason, Member Jeff Bradshaw, and our Attorney for the Board, James Liebman. Our first item of business is to consider approval of the June 4th, 2019 budget meeting, special meeting, the June 5th special budget meeting, and the hearing also on June 4th. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at those? Is the motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for June 4th and the public hearing and the June 5th budget meeting.
Thank you, Don. And a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor of accepting the minutes?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Our next item is financials with David Denton.
Yes. Madam Chair, members of the board, good evening. I'd like to start on page 19 of our board packet. We are through, this is reporting through 11 months of our 12-month fiscal year. So I'd like to start with our statement of net position. That's another name for a balance sheet for a nonprofit organization. So as of May 31st, 2019, the Frankfort Plant Board, looking at line 65, had total assets of just under $181.3 million. As you can see, that's up 4.4% from prior year. That is a good sign. We're reinvesting and adding back to our assets there. Looking at liabilities, line 130, total liabilities of just over $94 million. Bring our net position as of May 31st, 2019 to just under $87.3 million. Bring our liabilities and net position in line with our total assets of $181.3 million. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have about our statement of net position, but there's not anything substantial from the last month we covered it. If no questions, I'd like to turn over to our statement of cash and investment schedule. This is required as a part of our investments policy. Looking there, you can see we've got our cash and investments broken out between restricted and unrestricted. I'm going to focus on first the cash, total restricted and unrestricted balance as of May 31st, 2019. Looking at line 80, you can see we're at $23.7 million. It's very close to where we were a year ago. Looking at our certificates of deposit, or what we have as far as our total investments, looking at line 40, total restricted and unrestricted investments of just under $14.7 million for the period. As we do each month, listed those out by the type of account and the financial institution in which they exist. Be glad to answer any questions you may have about that. If not, I'd like to move on to our looking at our bonds, leases, and loans payable. This is page 21 of our board packet. You can see that we started the fiscal year out on July 1 of 2018, just under $42 million. This fiscal year to date, we have paid off $4.2 million, bringing our balance as of May 31st for all long-term debt at just over $37.7 million. As we'll approve the budget tonight, something I like pointing out is in our 5-year plan, we have these exact existing lines of long-term debt will have a 40% reduction in those balances over the next 5 years, which is quite substantial and good news for us. If there are no comments or questions, I'd like to flip over and look at the financial performance of the Frankfort Plant Board for the first 10 months, I should say 11 months of this fiscal year, looking at page 23. So page 23, the statement of revenues, expenses, and change in net position for our company-wide. You can see total operating revenue, line 20, just over $92.8 million. You subtract from that line 50, total operating revenues, just over 63.8. Giving us our gross contribution of just at $29 million. When you back out our general and administrative expenses, right at $21 million, plus our other income at approximately $2.2 million, you can see on line 355 that we have a net contribution of a little over $10.2 million for the year. I'd be glad to go over any other financial statements we have in the board packet. We'll break through each of our individual lines of business with these same types of financial statements, but as you can see, we're in pretty good shape as we head into this new fiscal year. I'd be glad to answer any other questions, but that's where we are as of May 31st.
It looks good. Do we have a motion to accept the financials?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor of accepting the financial report?
Aye.
Motion carried. Our next item is workers' compensation insurance renewal.
Kim's not with us this evening, so I'll present this item for you. Staff recommends we renew just our annual insurance policy for workers' comp with Keeney this year. Note that the premium has decreased by about $11,000. It's the lowest premium that we've had in about 20 years, and it's largely attributable to the experience modification factor, which takes into account your losses, which is sort of a industry jargon for, everyone here does a good job, works hard, and works safe, and we have very few people getting injured on the job. So it's really kind of a tribute to our folks out there every day doing a good job. So staff recommends approval of the renewal.
And this is a yearly contract, so we do it each year. Okay. Any discussion or motion?
I'll move to accept the workers' comp insurance renewal in the amount of $99,584.86.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of accepting the workman's compensation insurance?
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay, item 3.1, consider approval of, I'm sorry, that's what we just said. So, do we have any public comment? Is there anyone here who would like to make a statement? Okay.
My name is David Hecker. I'm a resident of Franklin County, outside the city limits. I am a ratepayer. I have electric, internet, cable, and telephone. First off. I'm also a member, one of the directors of WeWannaPlay.org, a local nonprofit. So on behalf of that organization, I would like to thank you all, the plant board, for helping to support. We held 2 races recently. We had the Proactive 5K in May and the Capital Expo Funnel Cake 5K in June. Both of those races, the plant board helped support us. They had the FPB Water Monster out providing hydration for our runners and walkers. So again, that's a great service, not only for our organization, but the community that takes advantage of having that, I don't know what you call it, piece of equipment or device out there available for everyone to use. So I thank you all for that. On more as a personal note, I would like to voice my support. I guess it's still going on, the water tower debate. I've looked at, I think, pretty much everything that's out there, and I am supportive of the plant board's position on the building the 2 tanks. And I'm not trying to be funny, but I have looked at with the mural debate in the city. I had looked at some, and I don't know if it's a possibility, if it will help or not, but there have been in some other communities, I guess, where they have used murals or painting to kind of camouflage a tank, or if nothing else, just as a blank canvas for public art. So again, I don't know if that would sway one group over the other, but personally, I don't have a problem with the way the plant board has it set up now. I'd also like to thank the plant board, the community cable people for coming out and doing the local sports and covering the meetings. I guess my only complaint that I really have is on my on-demand on TV, where it's got the, you can go back and you get the on-demand, and the plant board has some free things out there. There's not a whole lot of stuff out there that's on the on-demand, but where you all and the city now is utilizing a lot of your all's meeting videos in their social media, it makes it very easy to go back and look at a lot of those. So I really appreciate that. And I think that is it. Again, I thank you all for doing what you do and having these meetings and open comment. Oh, I would have one more thing I would say on the, because I have missed I know you all did have some public comments on the cable rates. And again, I can't remember exactly what my bill is, but it's definitely over $100. I don't know at what point I'm going to hit, but I can tell you, personally, I think and I know that you all a lot of times are just passing along the rates that the cable providers or cable companies are kind of giving you, and the way they have things set up, it kind of forces your hand. But I guess they have to know at some point, people are just going to say, I don't think I need it that much. And I think that's where I'm going to. Like I said, I'm not at that point yet, but I think the more they get increased, at some point I'm just going to say, you know what? I'm just going to do away with all of it and look for some other thing. So again, that's not so much for you all, but the cable companies that you all deal with. And last, the chair spoke of the online e-billing. I get that. I use that. I also pay my bill electronically online. Again, I have not used checks in a very, very long time, so I appreciate that. I get my monthly bill, and I go on there, and if I forget to pay it on time, I get the nice little reminder, and so I go on there before I incur any additional fees. So thank you all for that service as well.
Thank you for your comments. Very positive.
Yeah,
Dawn?
Madam Chair, I had a ratepayer that called me the other day and had some questions, and one of the things she was curious about is, since we're saving money from KYMEA and the electricity, why we couldn't use that to, say, lower the cable bill, as Mr. Hecker is talking about. So I just wondered if either Gary or David could explain to our ratepayers why we can't take money from one area and use it to subsidize another area.
Sure, I'd be glad to answer that. It's a good question because I can see as we move forward with these savings, how that could, it's a good question. It's kind of part of fundamental utility accounting and cost of service. What we try to do is make sure that we allocate specifically the cost of each division to the division in which it applies. That would be all operating expenses, all capital expenditures, all debt service, all of that gets captured and recorded at each individual line of service. What we're trying to do there is make sure that we accurately account for what does it cost to provide the service to the customer. You have to consider with the 3 different lines of business, we have some customers that are just electric, some customers that are just water, and a mix of those. So you can put yourself in the shoes of just a water customer. They would, I think, and this is why it's part of kind of utility cost accounting, is those customers' rates are set to cover the cost of the service that they subscribe to. So there are systems that do cross-subsidize, but that creates some additional issues. We could look at using electric funds for other projects, but I would highly recommend that we would set it up as an intercompany loan where the division eventually would pay the funds back. That would account for that loan and also make sure we keep the rates of each service where they need to be, so that each customer feels like they're paying only what they take. So that's hopefully that was a clear answer on that.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
Gary, did you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I think David gave a very good answer about that. Even looking for electric revenue, they are not evenly contributed among our customers. For example, over half our revenue come from our industrial large commercial customer also. So when you have that's kind of we prefer to do. When you have a surplus revenue in each fund, which is electrical, you will try to either reduce the rate or give a rebate to this group customer based on what a contribution they support this fund. So in that perspective, that's a further, it's the same answer. So we will try to be fair, right, to the customer. But I think David absolutely correct, because you are electric customer, not necessarily you are water customer. And you are electric customer, you are not necessarily cable TV, internet customer also.
Thanks.
Do we have anyone else who would like to speak? Is that okay? Well, thank you again, David Hecker, for telling us about your events and your reliance on our services. So our next item is website customer comments. I believe we only had one comment, which was in support of the single tank solution for the reservoir. So going on to departmental reports.
Yeah, Adam's not here right now, so Harvey's going to fill in and do his report for him at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. The cable telecom reports begin on page 115. You can see trends continue on our penetration, phone and video are down year over year, but ahead of our budgeted numbers. And broadband is up as well and is ahead of budget. And then after that, starting on page 116, your cable outages are there for your review. And I'll answer any questions you may have.
Yes, no questions? Thank you.
Hi there. Good evening, members of the board. Your customer service reports are on pages 119 to 120 in your packet. We added 209 new accounts, answered 4,749 calls, 1,605 walk-ins, and then 5,228 cashier transactions for the month of May. And then also, I think it's come up a couple of times this evening, I wanted to share with the public and the members of the board. We've talked about the portal a couple of times tonight with e-billing and payments and those types of things. We've added a new feature At FPB, we're working hard to find more convenient ways for our customers to conduct business with us. New residential customers are now able to sign up for and schedule all their service needs completely online with this new feature that we've rolled out. So we want to give our customers more flexibility and accessibility regarding their account and their service needs. This information has been released on our website. It can be found on our homepage at fpb.cc by choosing customer care and then choosing sign up for service. And we've also added a banner on our homepage that they can just click on to start those services. Since implementation just a few weeks ago, we've had 27 new residential customers successfully complete the application process and set up all their new services when it's most convenient for them. And I'd like to share with you just really quickly a brief video that Scott and Harvey and his group worked on that we're going to release to encourage new residential customers to use the portal for yet another feature and sign up that way with us. So.
At FPB, we're improving the customer experience every day. And now, if you're a first-time customer, you can sign up for services online. Sign up in minutes right now at my.fpb.cc/start.
And I would be happy to answer any questions you might have about that.
So is that airing on our website, and also have we placed it on television ads or as an ad?
It will be. It was
Okay.
just recently completed and for presentation this evening, and I believe their plan is to implement that on our Cable 10 as well as our website.
So that would work for setting up water, electric, and cable telecom?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome.
Any new residential customer can set up all of their services that way. They can schedule their dates that they want those services installed and connected. They pay any activation or deposits that way now. So they completely hands off coming in the office unless they choose to do that. So if it's 9 at night and they're at home, if that's most convenient for them, they can sign up for all the things that we have.
Very nice. That's good.
And I unfortunately don't know how to close this. That's why so you're now currently looking at something else. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you, Cassie. Okay. Oh, wow. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I just gave you basically a summary of the Network Operations Center, our activity over the past 30 days. I did a couple of different things there. The first sheet just shows some statistics we kind of spoke about at the last meeting since our startup, April 15th. How many calls we've had for each line of service and kind of each subcategory of that line of service. And then under it is the same numbers for just the past 30 days. Just gives you an idea of the calls. And this is pulled from the system that we use to record service calls. So any service call that we took, probably after hours, nights, weekends, or holidays, or that could be during business hours, any outage that we sent someone to was recorded in this system. On the back side of this sheet, it shows that in the past 30 days, our staff has answered or made, we've in some shape or form handled about 2,700 phone calls. Our facility locate guys in the past 30 days have done 664 utility locates. And then I broke that down by month for this year too, just to give you some reference. They're averaging, about 500 and some locates a month. That's between two guys, so they stay fairly busy. It looks like just this month they've already done 380 and a little over 3,000 this year. So those guys are doing it every day too. Any questions about this stuff that I can answer for you?
I guess one observation I have, I was surprised that there are so many calls in the electric category, but I guess that's mainly due to outages.
It is. It's outages, and we've had a few small scale events here recently. It's spring. We've had some wind, some rain, and different things occur. No large outages yet. But, little events will generate, 15, 20, 30 calls. And we've had a few of those. So that's mostly what they are.
The category of data, is that internet or?
Yes, it is. It is. Under technical support, tree online. Technical support, yes. We have each service broken down by a couple of different categories, full outage or partial outage or pole down, a limb on, online, and then water leak, and then other water categories. For water, there's not as many. It's sometimes we get a water quality call, but really probably more of a question usually. So we try to log those each way we get them, just so we have some, some numbers at the end of the year or at the end of a period.
Okay, looks good. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair and fellow board members, on page 121 where we start to electric, as you will see, our SAIDI numbers for the month of May are 70.564. As you turn to page 122, you're going to see our pie chart, which shows the types of outages and percentages for those outages. Page 123, you're actually going to see the those same description of outages and the actual count for each one of those. And you'll see that we had a total of 31 outages for the month of May. And then on page 124, you're going to see the top 10 customers, or top 10 trouble areas we had for the month of May, with the total customers affected of 212. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. Okay, SEPA report.
Yes, Madam Chair and Board, your SEPA report starts on page 125, and you'll notice again, we're a couple of months behind, but this is for the month of April. We had a loss of $8,333, and the calendar year we have a loss of $31,325. And of note, though, this is the last month that we're having OMU market our SEPA energy for us. Going forward, we will actually be using the hydropower ourselves as part of our own portfolio through KYMEA. So we will now recognize capacity value for it. And so the billing on that is a little faster. So next month I may actually have, depending on how things fall, I may have May and June to both for you and kind of catch up with the new process. And so we'll see how that goes, but we do expect that to be better.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Gary, did you want to add something on SEPA?
No.
Oh,
not
okay.
really.
You look like you wanted to. Okay, good. Our next item, I guess, is KYMEA. So.
For KIMEA, we had a board meeting, continue looking for new opportunity, potentially even more renewable, but that's still in the planning stage currently. If you have any additional questions, I'm happy to answer.
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the safety report.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Board. I'm J.C. Lyons. I'm the Field Safety Assistant. I'll be filling in for Ken tonight. If y'all turn to page 129 and 130, you'll notice we had a great month of May. No OSHA recordables and actually no vehicle accidents. So very happy about that. Happy to answer any questions.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you. Okay. Water distribution. I feel that no one is watering their lawns.
I don't believe so. I believe usage is down just a little bit. Madam Chair, members of the board, water distribution report is on page 131 through 133. We have 2 main breaks and 2 outages. Update on East Main. They're done laying the main. It'll probably be disinfected before the end of the week. We'll begin switching services over on the lower portion. So we're hoping to wrap that up. We kind of thought maybe we'd be done by the 1st of July, but I don't, depending on the rain and the weather, sometime in the next couple of weeks, we'll wrap up that lower portion and hand that over to the sewer contractor. The other thing is the water fountains. Mr. Mason, we met with Sean the other day and talked to him about the park, Dolly Graham Park down there, and he's gonna look at their plans and see if we could go ahead and do the fountain in an area that would be undisturbed, whether the spray ground was in or not. And they're hoping to know by October about the grant for the spray ground. And we also, the one at Farmers Market should be, if it doesn't rain tomorrow, they're gonna pour the pad tomorrow and should be done by the end of the week. And then we also met with Sean at East Frankfort Park and got plans on that one. And one thing I wanted to ask the board, as long as you all are okay with it, there's another water fountain there that needs some work or needs some assistance. And while we were there, we were gonna help them with that and just put that on the work order that we're already gonna split with them. So as long as everybody's in agreement with that, we're gonna do that too. So.
Yeah, I think that second location is the dog park itself.
Yes, ma'am.
So that'd be good. And I think from what you said about Dolly Graham Park, that that we would put in our drinking fountain, whether they go ahead with the splash pad or not.
That's correct. He was gonna look at the design of where the splash pad was and where we could put the water fountain, and as long as we were out of the way where it wouldn't interfere with their construction, then we could go ahead and do that and just kind of stay out of their way and go ahead and get it in.
Yeah, that'd be an asset for the neighborhood for the summer.
Yes. Any questions? Thank you.
That's good. Thank you, Ellen. And water treatment plant. So the river is probably churned up again.
It is. It's muddy and on the rise again. And I wish people could water their lawns. As you can see, our report's on page 135. Production is down a little bit again for the month of May. We treated 231 million gallons for the month, which was an average of 7.45 million gallons. Continued the trend of increased rainfall over the monthly averages. We had 6 inches of rain in May, which just put a lot of flow. We had 3.4 billion gallons of water a day passing the intake. So still a lot of water. And a lot of people are starting to compare 2019 to 2018. And of course, we all remember that was a record year for rainfall.
So are we on track for matching?
At the end of May, we were roughly 8 inches over and for the year. So at the rate we're going for June, I'd say we're on track. Now, the National Weather Service has predicted a rainy summer, but we'll just have to wait and see how that goes.
Thank you. Okay. So on to action item 7.1, consider approval of TVG and TVG2 renewal. And Harvey to explain this to us. I read the contracts and they go into a lot of detail.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Staff and the Cable Advisory Committee recommend approval of the TVG and TVG2 renewal. This is an NCTC agreement with a term through March 31st of 2023. It maintains the current TVG and TVG2 rates, which are among our favorite because they are free. TVG is on Classic Cable Channel 41, and TVG2, which was formerly known as HRTV, is on Preferred Cable Channel 145. They both offer live coverage and analysis of horse racing events. No additional carriage requirements or obligations are included in this agreement. Be happy to answer any questions you may have on this.
guess it's clear. So do we have a motion to approve the TVG 2019 contract? And actually, I think it extends longer than that.
I think that might have just dated the year of the agreement. It goes through.
Oh, it goes through 2023.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll move we approve the TVG and TVG2 renewal.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
And item 7.2, consider approving A&E network extension.
Staff and the Cable Advisory Committee recommend approval of the A&E Networks extension. The current NCTC agreement for A&E Networks expires at the end of this year. The NCTC did an amendment with A&E back in 2015 that extended that agreement through 2022. The amendment gave members, such as the plant board, the right to decline the extension as long as they elected that declination before July 15th of 2019. And that is next month, so that's why I'm here tonight. Under the extension, the carriage, packaging, and all other terms except the rate remain the same. The rate increases vary from network to network, but average just over 4% for the networks as a whole annually. A&E, History, Lifetime Movie Networks are the affected channels on classic cable. They all rank within the top 40 most viewed cable networks in Frankfort. And FYI, Viceland, and Lifetime, Real Women, are the networks on preferred cable. The increases were anticipated and are budgeted. No additional carriage requirements or obligations are included in this agreement. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Since we don't have to agree to it until July 15th, is there any hope in further negotiations to make it lower?
No, I mean, so the amendment was executed back in 2015.
Okay.
So we could have come to you back then, but because it didn't really, the deadline to get out wasn't until next month. So we just operated under the previous agreement until this point, in which case, this is our sort of ripcord moment. And, we think that the extension is, as good as we would expect. It's essentially just an extension with the existing increases. And so, yeah, the deal's done. The deal is what it is. If we felt like we could do a better deal, which I don't think we can, but if we did, then we would decline the amendment, ride out our current agreement through the end of this year, and then hope for the hope of hopes that we could do a better deal directly with A&E at the end of the year, which I don't think we can. Okay. But that's really the only angle. But I think this is as good as we're going to do.
Okay.
Here, so.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Thanks. We always want to try to find the opportunities, right, to save some money on these renewals. So.
Yep. So as far as our customers, this doesn't mean a rate change at this point. We already have budgeted for it.
Right. Yeah, and it's included in the budget for your approval tonight, and feeds into all those rates.
Okay. Do we have a motion to go ahead with the A&E network extension?
I'll move we approve the A&E networks extension. Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay. Action item 7.3, consider award bid invitation 1679 annual price contract for distribution transformers to Cape Electrical Supply.
Good evening. Most of FPB's distribution transformers are purchased from an annual price contract. These transformers are kept in inventory and need to be replenished periodically. Orders for transformers depend on new development and the replacement of bad transformers. Vendors bid with the understanding they are locking in unit pricing for the year and not for a certain quantity. This year's bid invitation was sent to 8 vendors with 5 responses. After evaluating all bids, staff recommends awarding to Cape Electrical as they are the lowest bidder meeting specifications. As of June 7th for the last year's contract, we've purchased approximately a little over $90,000. The proposed contract actually reflects a 0.66% decrease in price if we purchase along the same lines. And you can see the tab sheet of all of the bids on pages 149 through 162.
I move we award bid invitation 1679, annual price contract for distribution transformers to Cape Electric Supply.
And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of accepting the contract with Cape Electrical Supply?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. Thank you. And our next item, 7.4, consider award bid invitation 1680, annual price contract for purchase of wood poles to Brown Wood Preserving.
Along the same lines, we do an annual price contract for wood poles. The inventory of wood poles are ordered as needed to maintain inventory levels. The bid is to obtain the best price and hold pricing for the entire fiscal year. Staff estimates quantities of poles on the annual bid, and they bid with the same understanding that, we may order more or less than estimated quantities. This year's bid invitation was sent to 9 vendors with 5 responses. Staff reviewed all bids and recommends awarding to T.R. Miller Mill Company. They're the lowest bidder meeting specifications. So far, as of June 7th this year, we purchased $51,315 in poles, and the new pricing reflects a decrease of 10% over what last year's price. The tab sheet for that is page 163.
It's amazing the price would go down, but
Yeah.
even slightly.
Yeah, they were quite a bit lower this year.
Okay. So, do we have a motion to accept the wood pole contract?
I move we award bid invitation 1680, annual price contract for the purchase of wood poles to Brown Wood Preserving.
And a second? Okay, from Jeff, a second. All in favor of purchasing the poles?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, good. Next item, 7.5, consider Asphalt Tree Expert Company contract renewal offer for tree trimming services. And Scott to present.
Excuse me. Yes, Madam Chair and fellow board members. Currently, the FPB uses Asplundh tree services for our tree trimming services. The current contract was bid back in 2017 with the option of a 5-year renewal. And in that 5-year renewal, they were allowed to have an increase based upon the CPI. So this year, their renewal offer is 2.2% increase in labor, 0% increase in equipment. To rebid this would probably be more than the 2.2%, so we're good with renewing this offer. There is, as you remember in the budget, there's proposed money in the budget, $625,000 for electric and $175,000 for cable for tree trimming services this upcoming budget year. And currently, we have used $640,000 this past year. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Let me make one thing clear for the record. It's not a 5-year renewal. It's a renewal for 1 more year, but we can do that 5 different times, just to make sure that's clear for the record.
Well, with all this rain, trees are certainly growing. Yeah.
Oh, we can take you to some areas it is quite interesting. It's we've cut back in the fall and we've gone back to some of these areas, and the new growth is tremendous. So.
Wow.
So how many years has this been?
This is our third. This is our 3rd year option.
Okay. So are y'all not required to bid on things on these types of projects?
The bid was written, it would be renewed up to 5 times.
Yes.
No, I understand the contract was written away, but does the law allow you to not bid on?
Yes, if it's been bid, then that continues, that carries, that you don't have to rebid every single time.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So probably at the end of that 5-year period, we would do an overall bid
Yes,
process?
ma'am, you could.
Correct.
Do we have a motion to accept the tree trimming service?
Sure. I'll move we approve the Asplundh Tree Expert. Yeah, so moved.
Okay. And how do you say the name of the company again? I know I slaughtered it.
I call it Asplundh.
Asplundh.
Some people will try to say Asplunda, but I call it Asplundh. So
Asplundh. Okay.
Your guess is good as mine.
Okay, good. All in favor of this, renewing this contract?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passed. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay, item 7.6, consider amendment to FPB employee guidelines to add reasonable accommodation policy. Diane Schneider to bring us up to date.
Good afternoon. The Kentucky Pregnant Workers Act was passed earlier this year and becomes effective on June 27th. Staff asked the board to consider revising the employee guidelines governing employment to include a reasonable accommodations policy. Kathy has the proposed policy language. It's relatively short. I apologize, it was inadvertently left out of the board package. The proposed policy language informs all employees of FPB's accommodation process and covers requests related to pregnancy and requests from employees who have a disability. Be happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead.
I have a question. In reading what was in our packet, it mentioned having an accommodation other than a restroom for nursing mothers.
Yes.
Have you thought about that and the accessibility for our employees?
We have a designated room in this building, and we have made rooms available at other locations for that purpose. We'll have like a small conference room, that locks and that kind of thing. So that's something that we have accommodated in the past.
Thanks.
And I assume this basically follows the state guidelines.
The policy language, yes, we're required to make a reasonable accommodation. So if an employee makes an accommodation request, then we can, engage in an interactive process, find out what they need, and try to accommodate them.
Okay, that's good.
I'll make a motion to approve this reasonable accommodations policy.
Second.
And a second. All in favor of the new policy?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Diane. Okay. Action item 7.7, consider award bid invitation 1678 annual price contract for water treatment chemicals.
Good evening again. We have a summary of the results on page 6, which is in the agenda portion of your board packet. Staff prepares an annual bid for the water treatment chemicals and includes estimated quantities and explains, as mentioned earlier, that the orders could exceed or fall short of the estimates that are provided. The vendors bid with the understanding that the purpose is to hold the price firm throughout FPB's fiscal year. As in the past, we used a reverse auction process using the bridge to help us with these chemicals. It's been very good for us in terms of pricing. This particular bid received 19 responses. After reviewing each bid, staff recommends awarding to the lowest bidders meeting specifications with the exception of powdered activated carbon. And so I'll run through these real quick. Liquid ferric chloride is awarded to PDS Technologies at a price of $268 per liquid ton. Liquid sodium hydroxide to Brentag Mid-South, $13.90 per pound. Polyaluminum chloride to US Alco at 19 cents a pound. Powdered activated carbon to Calgon Carbon at 75 cents a pound. Hydrofluorosilicic acid to Brentag Mid-South at 14.20 cents per pound. Anhydrous ammonia to Airgas ammonia at $1.2980 per pound. Potassium permanganate to Brentag Mid-South, $1.59 a pound. Sulfuric acid, Chemical Resources, 14.40 cents per pound. Zinc orthophosphate, Chemical Resources, 64.6 cents per pound. Our OSG bulk sodium chloride to Morton Salt, $232.60 a ton. And our water softener salt, Chemical Resources, at 21.05 cents per pound. As of May 31st, 2019, our chemical purchases totaled $438,181 with 1 month remaining in fiscal year 2019. Staff have requested $450,000 in the proposed fiscal year 20 budget for treatment chemical purchases. The prices as compared to fiscal year 2019 prices were actually up 7%.
So, Julie, you had mentioned something about the carbon
Mhm.
being different, that you didn't go with the lowest provider.
What we do with the carbon is we actually do a series of tests on the vendors that provided samples. I think we had 5 that put in a bid, 4 sent us samples as is required in the bid specification. And then we actually spike our raw water with some taste and odor causing compounds, dose the jars with the different carbons, and then have the samples analyzed to see how well the different carbons remove the taste and odor compounds. And whichever one gives us the best performance is we run it through a cost weighted process, and that's how we end up with one. Actually, the Calgon carbon is the same company that we are using this year, and it's cheaper. So it's 2 cents cheaper than it is this year.
Okay. So it's really meeting extended requirements.
Exactly.
Okay. Oh.
We want to make sure that our carbon is capable of removing any kind of musty, earthy type of odors that might show up in the river.
So does anyone in the treatment plant do the final taste test?
Oh, we all drink the water.
No, I mean between the different versions.
No. We don't take the process all the way through the treatment. We use our jar test apparatus that we use to kind of simulate our treatment process, and we'll take it all the way through settling, and we ship the samples off to Louisville Water Company, and they do the testing for us.
I see. Okay.
But we do use our noses quite a bit, to make sure that we don't have any odors in the water.
Okay. Sounds very thorough. So, do we have a motion to accept the water treatment chemical costs for this coming year?
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor of spending money on water treatment chemicals?
Aye.
Aye. Motion
Thank you.
passed. Thank you, Julie. Okay. Action item 7.8, consider approving changes to job classification and compensation plan effective July 1st.
Thank you. Earlier this year, staff worked with the Johansson Group to complete a compensation plan review and market pay study. Staff asked the board to consider approving the reclassification of 41 positions based on the results. A copy of the proposed changes to the list of authorized positions is included in the board package starting on page 171. If approved, staff proposes that employees who received an increase due to a reclassification not receive the COLA or 2% increase that would be effective July 1st, pending budget approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple. But just a clarification, that the annual increase column, is that the total amount of the, for instance, like the 11,300 there in the first column, is that the total cost of the 2 people being impacted? Or is that per person, 11,000?
That is the total cost for the department on annual base wages.
For the 2 people
For the
that's
2
impacted?
people, yes.
Move we approve the changes to job classification and compensation plan effective July 1st, 2019.
All in favor of approving the?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry, second?
A second.
Okay, so Jeff has seconded. All in favor of the job classification plan changed?
Aye.
Aye.
I pass.
Okay, so we have 1 abstention, everyone else voted in favor? Is that accurate? Okay, thank you. Motion carried. Action item 7.9, thank you, Diane. Consider approving revised water line extension cost recovery policy.
Staff is requesting changes to the water line cost recovery policy. In May, we requested a public hearing. In June, we had a public hearing. The decision before the board now is to approve the proposed policy To my knowledge, we have not received any written or spoken comments about the proposed policy. I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
I read through the policy. I thought it looked good and made sense and wasn't as lengthy as the previous one.
And it will be a whole lot easier to administer.
That's good. So, do we have a motion to change the policy?
I move to approve the revised waterline extension cost recovery policy.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor of changing the policy?
Aye.
Motion
Can I ask a
passed.
question though?
Yes,
Just
go ahead.
totally unrelated. So generally speaking, if we get more customers in, you know, I read an article, that will sort of dilute the cost, if that's the best word.
Yes.
It would help the ratepayers around Frankfort if we got more capacity and stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
You can consider our costs, generally speaking, they're about 90% fixed. So the more revenue that we can generate from new customers, it takes some of those revenue requirements away from the existing customers because of our high fixed cost. We're spreading our fixed cost among more people.
I hope we can do that.
Well, we can certainly try.
Thank you, David. Action item 7.9, consider approving the revised waterline extension. Oh, I'm sorry, we did that. 7.10, consider adjustment to cable advertising rate card maximum rates in order to subvert possible inventory shortages during the political windows.
So this is the third step in this process. We're asking to raise our maximum rates for cable advertising, strictly to give us the ability to protect our inventory of avails during political advertising windows. There are about 9 networks in one time slot that at our current maximums, we run the risk of overtaxing those avails. We have no desire to raise rates above what's attractive to our customers. We're just looking to protect those avails during the political windows. So we asked to raise our political candidate maximum rate to $50 and our maximum standard core rate to $35.
Have we received any formal or informal comments?
We have not.
Okay. So we have had a hearing on this, shared the information. Do we have a motion to accept?
I'll move we accept the amendments to the cable advertising rate card, maximum rates in order to subvert possible inventory shortages during political windows.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and Don seconded. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. 7.11, consider approval of lowering or eliminating service reconnect charges on cable TV, internet, and telephone services. And this, I should mention, is the third of the hearings that we had back on June 4th. So we're just completing the process here. Any discussion on changing these rates? Have we received any positive feedback from anyone?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm not
Okay.
aware if we've heard any comments back.
Okay.
I sure hope it's received positively.
Well, it should be. I think it's, makes changing services, very positive. Do we have a motion to go ahead and accept the reduction in fees?
Make the motion.
Okay, and a okay, second. All in favor of reducing the connection fees or reconnection fees?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Item 7.12, consider approval of the fiscal year 2019 through 2020 budget. So this is our big item of the evening. And is there any discussion? Are people satisfied with the budget?
I have questions.
Okay.
Always. I asked David to give me a copy, and I don't know if he's given a copy. I wanted to see a list of all additional things we put in the budget, so I know what at least I was voting on, and I don't know whether you completed it. But anyway, I got a few of the things, and I have some questions about it. The rebate, I like the rebate that we have here to give back to the ratepayers. I like the charging stations. I wonder I don't know what the energy efficiency thing was, 'cause I don't remember us talking about it. So what's the energy efficiency program?
The energy efficient program we propose is $50,000. Preliminary, we want to target energy auditing, not looking to have a certain rebate or any of that line item. Pretty much limited currently. If a customer call us, then we will ask the contractor, which is already provided service for co-op, other utility in this area. Then they will go to visit the customer. Then they can develop a detailed list which can help customer to save their energy costs. That's the preliminary purpose for the $50,000 current budget.
Okay, and again, the water fountains I understand, and okay, I'm okay. The drinking fountains, the Wi-Fi hotspot for me, I would love to see that go into the kids, maybe get with the Frankfort Recreational Department and put them in the parks, so children would have, particularly parks where kids may not have access to the internet, and the Wi-Fi hotspots would be in the park where they will have access there and can do other things, such as play, I guess, on whatever they play on, and they can educate themselves with, internet and all that junk too. So that would be the only recommendation there. So, but David, are there any other additional items that you didn't put on this sheet for me?
Are you walking through the list?
I walked through the list.
That I'm prepared.
So is that
great.
all of them?
We've got the last one here. A new 401A retirement plan is proposed in the budget. So we're setting funds aside for a new 401A. The idea is that with the changes in the Kentucky retirement system for employees that were hired January 1st, 2014 and after, are now on the Tier 3 hybrid cash balance plan, which is essentially a 401k plan. So if men and women that are in that plan at the Frankfort Plant Board contribute the minimum that they're required to contribute, the day comes for them to retire, it's really not going to be sufficient for them to be able to sustain the standard of living that they're used to while working. So what we're proposing is a 401A. It allows us to offer the plan only to the Tier 3 employees. We've modeled it similar to what the city of Frankfort, or this is the proposed ideas on the plan. The $12,000 is estimated to be the FPB's employer contribution. We would come to the board of directors and request the creation of this plan, explain it much more in depth. You can see the plan for yourself and then see if you would like to go forward with that. So that is the only other one that we've highlighted on this list. Of course, there are all kinds of different thoughts and projects and initiatives we have, but these are the ones that stood out as relatively new to this budget year.
Okay. And can you explain to me the pay raises in the budget?
Sure. So what we have, the Frankfort Plant Board of Directors in 2014 approved a compensation plan that we still work under today. So the current plan allows for men and women that are below the midpoint of their pay grade, which the midpoint is defined as the market rate, what those men and women could get paid in the market for their job if they were to go somewhere else or here. So what that allows for in our budget today is if you are below the midpoint of the grade and you meet an acceptable performance appraisal, you receive a 2% increase on July 1 and a 2% increase on January 1st of each year.
So on just that point, some compound is about 4.2 or something. What percentage of the plan board would get that?
You're around 70%, 69, 70%
of the employees would get that, okay.
Yeah. So we are following that plan, and the numbers have been budgeted to follow that plan. If anyone that is above midpoint of their grade, it is at the board's pleasure to approve a pay increase. In this budget, we have put in a 2.5% increase. We have received some surveys from the Kentucky Municipal Utilities Association. It seems like most utilities are at 3%, so we feel this is very much in line with what other utilities are providing, since we are competing with other utilities for our men and women in our different jobs. So that, on top of what the board just approved for the compensation study that was done, all of those items are factored into this budget.
Okay. Well, the last item, as everyone knows, I was against it last time, and I'm against it now too. I mean, me in good conscience, really, it's hard to approve a 4% last year, 4.2 last year, and then come back with a 4.2 this year. Effectively, a 17%, not a 7, I'm sorry, a 9% pay raise approximately over 2 years, when the ratepayers who pay this, the public employees out in Franklin County, haven't gotten anywhere close to that. And so that to me, I'd be happy to talk about something less than that if it was open to the board, but I can't vote for an effective 9% pay raise over the last 2 years. That's my thought.
So, David, going back to 2014 with the agreement, I believe that there were some recommendations at the time for a significant pay raise, and that the compromise was to issue that over a series of years. Do I have that correct?
Yes, so part of the compensation plan as it was structured, the intent is to recruit and retain highly qualified men and women that would come and serve and hopefully serve out their whole career here. We had just a big flurry in the last 24 months of men and women who spent 20, 25, 30 years, and we would love to see that continue. We do put a lot of time, money, and effort into training our men and women to serve in these 3 different lines of business. So the idea was, instead of having a large immediate increase that I know is hard to handle, and the idea was to, over time, continue to have these 2% increases every 6 months to progress men and women to their midpoint. It takes 7, 8 years to get there, and the market continues to increase. So we find we have about the same split that we've had year over year: 70% of men and women below midpoint, 30% above. It's a constant thing we're continuing trying to keep up with. So that's the way the compensation plan was structured.
So let me see if I understood what you said. You do this study every 5 years?
No, I tell you what, we are just implementing and budgeting what the compensation
I'm just
plan
asking
is.
about. I'm not talking to you personally.
Sure.
Dave. I'm talking. Sure. You said we do this. We do the study, the market study. How often?
I'm going to bring Diane up to make sure I get you an accurate information. I know this compensation study we just walked through, the idea was to do those every so often. I can't remember if it's every 5 or
We've
how
done
many.
historically every 5 years since I've been here, about 20 years.
Okay, so but David said it takes 5 years almost to get to the midpoint when you with this.
It's actually around
this is an
7
infinite,
years.
So this is an infinite pay raise, because once you get there, it's moved again.
So what the problem we have is we're bringing men and women in significantly below the market, so it takes 7, 8 years to get to midpoint. So that's how it's structured.
Yeah, that is one point that I'd like to make, is that, different employers might start their employees out a lot higher or at the midpoint, since that's the market average, and we don't. Well over 90% of our employees start at the minimum pay for that pay grade. And as they are trained and become more experienced, they're more valuable to the plant board. And so this allows them to advance, with their pay, and hopefully, stay here and contribute. So.
I'd just like to, Last week I took a tour of the substations, which was really informative and which I think everybody ought to do. And I really appreciate Bent and everyone that went along on that and explained things to me. And one of the things that I really appreciated from learning more about distribution and the function of the substations is the institutional knowledge that our employees need to have in order to really do their jobs and make this the safest, most reliable electric system. And so it just really drove home to me how important it is to maintain our employees and not become a training ground for KU or Bluegrass Energy or whoever else is in the area. It was fascinating to me in the little house thing that is at the substation and the one wall of bank of computerized stuff that it's like I asked, so how long does it take you all to learn all of that? And I just think it's just really important that we are able to maintain our employees, that they want to stay here and not move someplace else.
Dawn, I think that's a good point, and we know that, well, last year we upgraded the electrical line workers' pay, and this year we've lost water distribution people and also cable internet people, and those are important employees, certainly, as you said.
Well, from my point, I feel that it may not look like I do value the employees, and I'm not. My comments are not about the employees' worth or value or their competence or whatever. It's really about looking at the environment. But to the point that you made, Don, 70% of the people are getting the 4.2. 45% of the people are getting above 5% above in that classification, which I'm all right. The classification changes.
45 individuals.
Yeah, they're getting what their average.
They're getting a 5%.
They're getting a 5%.
They're getting a 5%.
So you're looking at something like, I don't know how many employees do you have total?
198.
109, 45, and then there's 70% on top of the 45 are getting. So almost everybody is getting this. And my question is, my point is every position at the plant board not competitive with the comparable positions out in Frankfort County?
Well, I think that references what maybe Diane said earlier, that a large percentage of our employees are below midpoint and that we hire at the entry level.
Well, and that's the same case with public employees. A lot of them are there too, below midpoint, and they aren't getting anything. So that's my opinion.
Well, maybe this would encourage other public employers to do better.
We'll hope.
Just a concept. Okay. Is there any further discussion on the budget?
I'd just like to say one thing.
Go ahead.
I assume we're just gonna voice vote the budget, not roll call.
Unless you want to do either.
I just wanted to be able to explain my vote. I'm going to vote for the budget, but I just want everyone to understand that when it comes time to discuss some of the things that Steve pointed out that are new to the budget, depending upon the details, I may or may not support it, but for now, I'm good to go with it.
Okay. Well, thank you, and I hope once we do, approve the budget and start working out the details, that you can have some input that would be valuable to the process.
Thanks.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the budget?
I'll move we approve the FY 19-20 budget.
Second.
Okay, a motion and second. All in favor of the budget?
Aye.
No.
Okay, so we have one person not in favor and everyone else in favor. Okay, thank you. So the budget is passed. Thank you to staff for all of your work. It's very good. And general manager comments?
We do have
video. So this is a video of the 3 people we awarded scholarships to.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
The Frankfort Plant Board is once again proud to present the FPB Youth Scholarship in partnership with the Frankfort Rotary Club. Recognizing the importance of post-secondary education and the need to foster local students into the workforce, the Frankfort Plant Board awards one $2,000 scholarship to a student from each of the public high schools in Frankfort. The primary focus of the FPB scholarships is on students studying fields in career and technical education. It is also available to students studying other career paths that may be applicable to positions at the Frankfort Plant Board. Last year, a committee of the Rotary Youth Fund toured the Franklin County Career and Technical Center. This school serves students from all 3 public high schools in Frankfort. Its mission is to promote lifelong learning and prepare students for careers in post-secondary education. Fields of study include information technology, carpentry, health sciences, allied health, welding, pre-engineering, and automotive technology.
My name is Bill Scott. I'm the chairman of the Frankfort Rotary Youth Fund. Since 1988, the Youth Fund has distributed over $250,000 to graduates of Frankfort and Franklin County Public Schools. Last year, because of a recent partnership with the Frankfort Plant Board, we have been able to almost double the number of awards that we've given out.
The 2019 Frankfort Plant Board Youth Scholarship recipients are...
Hi, my name is Ben Rowe. I'm graduating from Frankfort High School, and I'm planning on going to the University of Louisville to major in computer information systems. And I just wanted to say thank you to the Frankfort Plant Board for their generous scholarships.
I'm Daniela, and I'm going to go to UKU for civil engineering, and thank you for the scholarship.
Trinity Flora from Franklin County High School. She will be attending the Tulsa Welding School in Jacksonville, Florida, studying welding. The Frankfort Plant Board would like to congratulate these students and wish you the best of luck in your future. Please know that you have the support of your community.
Okay. Well, thank you to everyone who put that together. Very informative. And I understand maybe a couple of the recipients will be able to come to our July meeting. And that the person in welding is already down there in Florida learning welding. Okay. Did you want to make any other comments, Gary?
No.
Okay, good. Do we have any new or old business? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.